Hey, 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 good morning, good morning, good morning. It's your life coach, Andrea Jackson. Hey, we're going to be continuing on that healing from anger course, and we have people just waiting to get in. So just hold on a second. We're going to get right back in it. Hello, 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 everyone. I see you're up and you got your audio going. Hold on a second. I did a meeting last night and had to change some of the functions. Oh, okay. I think it's okay. I am so sorry about this. I did another group meeting on last night and I had to change the functions. And I didn't realize that they needed to change them back. But hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to get started in our part two of healing from anger. We're going to pick up where we left off on yesterday. But before we do that, let's jump right in and see how you're doing. Let's check in. Let's see how you're feeling this morning. Where's your mental health? How's your drive? How is your moving forward in this life change? Go ahead. Let's see. I have let's see this my whole other situation hadn't changed as of yet, so I don't have my call in list, but I do know that Miss Susu is present with us, and I think she was our first caller. After that, I don't know, so you can check in as well after Miss Susu. So good morning, Miss Susu. Go ahead and check in, please.
Good morning, Miss Jackson. You look so beautiful. I like that color.
Thank you.
And good morning to all. And I am having a good day. I got up feeling good, and joyous, and grateful and thankful. And as said, looking forward to my group. What I can learn and put in my backpack, as Shahara say, if I got the name right. But put it in the backpack, and it's gonna need it sooner or later. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm in anticipation of what's going on today.
Excellent. Excellent. You sound amazing. Thank you so much, Miss Susu. Who would like to check in next?
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am doing well. Um, don't have no complaints on today. Doing well. Excited about today's teaching, and I'm here. Thank you.
Glad you're here, Miss Bianca. Thank you so much. Who's next to check in?
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Denise. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. Another day in the land of the living. Thanks by God. But so I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to be here. Grateful to be alive. Grateful. Hey, uh, try to prep. Trying to prep. Got to prep for 2023. Got to prepare for 2003. Ain't nothing powerful gonna happen at midnight. Except the date is going to change.
Yeah.
Except I've got to change, and that's where we're at. that's where we're at. So I'm thankful.
I love that. I love that, Miss Denise. That's our motto for the year. We're not waiting for a magic moment at midnight, but we're going to invest in our life change. So I love that. Thank you so much. Anyone else to check in on this morning? All right, all right. Well, let's just jump right on back in with our healing from anger. A lot of times we've dealt with anger by basically suppressing anger, and we find that that's not good. Sometimes it helps us for the moment. It helps us not to hurt somebody. It helps us, but it harms us inside. It harms us as a permanent decision making. It harms us. It's not something. It may fit my right now, and maybe sometimes I have to use that immediate self-control to not get involved into something chaotic, because my anger, knowing my anger will take over. But today we want to talk about healing from anger so that we can be more in the control seat, whereas our emotions are concerned. Because internally we go through a lot. Our internal world has a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, a lot of bitterness. It has its joy and its blessings internally, but we also have had a lot of effects from our past, effects from the survival methods that we had to participate in, and just all sorts of things, not to mention those wrong turns down life's highway where we had to learn the hard way, and it bruised us, it damaged us. Or not to mention when we were mishandled, when we were dropped. Our parents weren't perfect. They didn't have the rule book to know what was the best way to raise this one versus this one versus that one. So now we're left with some internal stuff that we have to deal with. And sometimes our emotions, they signify, they are the blaring voices that sounds the alarm for our internal world. And here it is, anger is a trumpet that blows, and depending on our ability to control our anger, whether our anger is constructive or destructive, we find that it can lead us into some places, again, like one of our participants say, places that you don't want to go and will keep you longer than what you want to be kept. So excuse me, today we're going to be talking about healing from anger by way of understanding anger. And again, we're going to talk about how we need to change our perception about what that anger producing situation may mean to us. We have to kind of take a look at changing our view about it, because remember, so a man thinketh, so is he. So I'm going to kind of look at some views to suggest to you, and then we're going to maybe talk about those. Maybe some of these are your views. Now, I'm going to talk about the destructive view and maybe a more constructive way of looking at it, which can kind of pave our road a little bit for our future steps. It can kind of pave our road while we're dealing with anger, whether it's in our mind, whether it's in our heart, or whether it's being acted out at our own hands. I have to change my mindset. I got to change how I feel about it, how I view it, how I think about it. So let's look at this first one. A destructive view that we have is others should put my needs first. That may be the view that we're having while we're in that anger producing episode. A more constructive view would be, among adults, one's ultimate duty in life is to put one's own growth first. So instead of pondering and thinking and meditating on, they should have put me first, they should have did this for me, they should have came and moved my car, they should have came and did this for me first, I just asked them to get my stuff out the cleaners, why they can't just get my stuff out the cleaners? But we must change our view and say, you know what, that's an adult. And it is that it's normal for a person to put their own stuff first, their own growth first, their own agendas first, and not me. So that's one of our examples that we're going to have today on our destructive versus a more constructive view. Another destructive view: if I yell at people, they'll treat me better. Yeah, sometimes when we get angry, we gotta yell, da 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 da. Well, more of a constructive view would be yelling alienates people and make them dislike me. I need to ask for what I want in calm ways. Changing our way of thinking, remember, has a power and ability to change our emotional state and definitely change our behaviors. Another thought before we kind of open up for dialogue on these. I know what's right. I know what's right. So in that anger, sometimes our anger is being pressed to the hilt because within me, hey, I know what's right. What a more constructive view would be, there are many perspectives on truth. I need to listen fully before I judge a situation. Sometimes we judge situations on limited information, just on the piece I saw. But I remember, I can't even say remember because this experience, I've experienced this many, many, many times in the church, many times in the family, where you have several people, sometimes even just two. They're talking about a matter, but something has been thrown in, a diverse conversation, or something happened and a person looked away and they didn't hear what all that person said, and they answered the question, and the person feels like that's their answer to the question or that's their response, but they didn't even hear the full response. It just kind of fit. So now that person has a perception that, oh, she don't like this, when this person has a perception that they ask, hey, is it a possibility that one day you can like this? Because they were distracted, or maybe a third party came in and with a whole different understanding. And so now you're talking and you're having a conversation, but it's not on the same thing because it's two people that's understanding and having two different conversations or topic of conversations in their own mind. So that has happened so many times, and they're arguing and they become hateful towards one another because the conversation that they think that they're responding to, it's passed hours ago because of one distraction. Or sometimes it's because of a belief system. Sometimes it's because of my experience. Sometimes it's because of what you went through that changes your perspective. But we have to remember, people have other different perspectives on what's truth to them. And we have to be able to accept that rather than to battle the point of my perspective. I'm going to give one more and we're going to open it up to talk about those. If anyone is dealing or have dealt with that destructive thinking and how maybe we can make it more constructive and kind of heal from our anger. But I'm going to say a few more and then we're going to open up and say a few more because I have a great list here for you. The only way people hear me is if I yell. I read that one. Also, other people screw up. So a more constructive view to that is, if other people make mistakes, I need to gently guide them because guess what? I make mistakes too. So I want to go ahead and take a pause to see if anyone would like to share on the 5 perspectives that I've just shared, the constructive view as well as the destructive views. Go ahead, unmute your phone and share. Anyone had that sort of thinking, that destructive thinking? If I yell, that's when I'm heard. Or, hey, I know the truth. Or, hey, they should see about my needs. Any of those strike home for you? If not, we'll continue.
They should see about my needs.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Seeing that I try to see about everybody else's needs and mine go unmet.
Yeah.
I used to get angry when people didn't see about my needs.
Yes.
Matter of fact, just before I called in, I got a phone call because I was just thinking, either it was last night or this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I haven't heard from this person. They haven't called, haven't checked in, haven't said, "Hey, how you doing?" or
Right.
anything of that sort. You know, but I'll call, I'll see how you doing when I ain't heard from you in a good while or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In the phone room just before I called in, and they call, "Hey, I heard such and such. You okay? You all right?" And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just deal what I deal with, but I'm doing well." But that uh used to be, sometimes it still kind of try to rise up
Okay.
about you know, see my needs,
Yeah.
check on me. Stop always thinking I'm always strong. She the strong one. She the strong one. She'll need no help with nothing. She's strong. But with that being said, also, I had to be the strong one.
Okay.
So with that being said, I had to be the strong one. So those was the attributes that I gave out. So in some sense, they're only saying what they believe because the front maybe I had put on
Mm-hmm.
down through the years, that, oh, she's so strong, or she can handle this and she can handle that and nothing bother her and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say that one about see my needs.
Awesome. Thank you for
Mhm.
identifying that. Thank you so much. And absolutely, thank you. I love how you shared that and how you broke that down. Because truly, it's just like and as Miss Bianca was sharing about, hey, this is what I do for others. Where's my reciprocation? It can bring on a anger, it can bring on a hurt, it can bring on an emotional distressor. When I just really have to realize, you know what, that's something I chose to do. And I like how she said, that's the front that I put on. I showed no vulnerabilities. So therefore, I don't need any help. So why should people check on me? Understanding that that is the reciprocation of a way of life that I chose for myself, or how to present myself. I love that. Thank you so much, Bianca. Anyone else? All right, we're going to read a few more. Good morning, Sister Lupe. Good morning. We're continuing in healing from anger by understanding anger from our perceptions, our thoughts and mindsets. And we're looking at some of the more destructive views versus more constructive views that we can maybe self-play in our head in order to get through these anger producing situations. We talked about others should put my needs first, but a more constructive view would be, among adults, one's ultimate duty in life is to put one's own growth first. And I won't go through the rest of them, but I will pick up where I left off. Just wanted to give you an example of what we've talked about. And someone just shared about how they've portrayed being strong, that people may not come and check on them anymore, and how they don't come and put her needs first or can be concerned about her needs. So, and how that produces anger. So I love the processing that we're doing, guys. Thank you so much. Um, Also, a more destructive view may be, anger shows how strong I am. Sometimes in some of the environments that we came up in, when you came up in, gang environments, or like a street criminal mindedness environment, things like that, gang environment, prison environment, some of those communities, they have a persona that if you walk around looking angry, that kind of shows your strength. Well, sometimes we take those old codes in our head and we walk them out in our life, and we walk around angry, wondering why people don't want to be bothered with us, why people don't want to talk to us, why people don't want to spend time with us, why people are saying you have an anger problem. We start wondering why, because this is something that had been coded into our coding and have become the code that we live by. And it's a learned behavior for some. And for some, it's a groomed behavior because it's been groomed in your life over and over and over. And for some, it's merely it can be more generational, more innate, that my mama was angry, my father was angry, or they were depressed or anything like that. So anyway, those sometimes we have a mindset, anger shows how strong I am, where a more constructive mindset would be strong anger makes me weak. I become out of control. So when we begin to identify that and think about that in our minds when we're dealing with anger, we got to think about that. Really when I'm just releasing myself to my emotions, it really shows how weak I am versus how strong I am. So when that destructive view comes up, anger shows how strong I am. You tell yourself, no, it really shows how weak I am. Anyway, another destructive view. Anger, oh, excuse me, I read that one. Others have to make my life better. I expect other people to do this and that for me. Well, a more constructive view is it's up to me. It's up to me more than anyone else to make my life better. I counsel some people that are getting married, and I talk to them, and or that's dating someone that's thinking about getting married, and sometimes they say, I say, well, why are you guys getting married? Why did you come this far? And they'll say, oh, because he makes me happy or she makes me happy. That's nice, but you can't depend on that for a lifetime. That's not their purpose, to make you happy. So we have to remember that whether we have a husband, a wife, a spouse, excuse me, that is a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or that you're dating someone, it's not their responsibility to make you happy. You'll have some happy moments, of course, I hope, but it's not that person's responsibility. So our view becomes very destructive when we expect someone else to make us happy. Let's read another one. I can only deal with anger by acting out. That's the only way I can deal with anger, by acting out. Everyone can learn to deal with anger safely. Acting out gets you incarcerated. Acting out gets you shot. Acting out gets you walked away from. Acting out causes people to not want anything to do with you. They may love you. Oh, love your dirty draws. But if you have no self-control over your anger, what happens is it kind of shy people away because you're bleeding your vulnerabilities, your lack and your weaknesses all over other people, and they have to deal with that. So understanding our anger is understanding how we view our anger, or how we view life, how we view things that brings on anger producing situations. I'm gonna read one more and I'm gonna open the floor to you guys to see if any of these destructive views are yours. Let's see. The other one is I'm right to be angry, and you may be. I have a right to be angry, but how I express it is what counts. We talked about the scripture. Um, it's okay to anger. God gave us anger, but sin not. What you do with it. Because I'm depressed, don't mean I have a right to go and take someone else's joy. Don't mean that I'm okay in the eyes of the Lord or in society to go and shoot up people because, hey, I was having a bout of depression. I was having a bout of anger. So I just went ahead and did XYZ. So I'm going to open the floor again. Which one of these destructive behaviors would you identify as your own?
Version- my version of anger has been in different ways, and my observation of anger around me has been manifested in different ways. In my family, I remember years ago, I went to go visit my grandparents after work, catching a bus out there, and my grandmother was an invalid because of health conditions. And my grandfather, he wasn't in the greatest shape himself, but at least he was still up on two legs and two hands and able to do. And he did for her. He had to lift her in and out of her chair, in and off of the pot, everything.
Wow.
Okay? This was the deal. That one day I was in the room talking to her that evening after work, and she said, "Go tell your big daddy I said this, that, and the other." And I said, "Well, why you didn't tell her?" She says, "I'm not speaking to him today."
Oh, okay.
But wait a minute, he has to come in here and take care of you, which he does,
Mm-hmm.
and you mad and not speaking to him? And then I had to go back in my memory from childhood that one of my relatives, their daughter, my
Uh-huh.
mom, had that habit too, where she would get coldly angry and stop speaking.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say, but I know that it was part of her negative side in her intimate relationships and marriage, the one marriage she had, that some of that was in there. And one of the things I learned growing in recovery was this, that the dysfunctional family is not always just the house where the children were severely beaten or raped and molested, but the dysfunctional family is where there's no normal, open lines of communication.
Wow.
And when I heard that in class, in the substance abuse class, I immediately thought back to these folks. Now, my version of anger has always in the past has turned into depression, or eventually you push me for so long. My life, I look it back to my life, and it's like a lot of times in my life was like a quest to please leave me alone. Don't bother me. Don't hurt me. Leave me alone. Stop hurting me. Stop coming after me. Leave me alone. A lot of my life has been that. Leave me alone. I don't want to be a part of that because you're probably going to harm me in some form or fashion or some type of betrayal.
Okay.
I've been through a lot. And my version of anger used to always turn into some form of depression or an extreme crazy. She blew up. She finally blew up after years of, and you never thought that she was going to blow up like that. You thought that we could run over her and doormat her for life. And one day the doormat rose up and went straight crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are very, very shocked when that happened. And that like I've seen like cold fear and shock when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look. I told you I done basically. I'm up in my late. I'm up in my late. I'll be 60 next year. I done kind of gave up on humanity. I have. I basically have. Cause y'all ain't never met my needs. You can't do it. I'm gonna have to do it myself. You know. Now because I'm called to do certain things in this world, I'm going to do my job.
Right.
Because if I wasn't called to do it, you better believe me, I wouldn't touch it.
Okay.
I wouldn't touch it because people are too hard headed
Mm.
and people are too bound in self destruction. But because I'm called to do it and I've made an agreement to do it, that I will do it, do my work, will do my work. But in my personal life, like I said, I didn't give up on humanity because it's like nothing. You can't. You don't have it either. You just don't even have what I need. And that like that said that title of that group called Unmet Needs. And they told me that my knees buckled and I immediately had to sit down, standing in the doorway of the office when she said it. And I had to come in the office and sit down in a chair.
Wow.
My knees buckled when I heard that phrase unmet needs. So I have to meet my own needs between myself, between my relationship to working on my relationship with my Father God.
Mm-hmm.
I have to meet my own needs because other people think they ain't got it.
Mhm.
You ain't got it. You ain't got it in your pocket. You ain't got it on your shelf. What I need, you ain't got it. I just got to a place. I have to just between me and Father, between me and Father God, I gotta meet my own needs. Um, most of my relationships are very superficial. They're not depth. They're not depth.
Mhm.
They're superficial. They serve this purpose over here. They're all different parts, and you only get information on the need to know basis. And because I've experienced some things and I've shared too much of my information.
Mhm.
So that anger thing with me has been lately, like with menopause. You throw menopause in the mix too, and a hot flash in the mix.
Yeah.
A blow up feel real good. Telling the truth, a good full blast blow up, it feels real good. It's like and you don't want to be like I don't want to be like that.
Right.
I want to keep it mellow and level, but I know we're in a world right now where people are going to vex each
Yeah.
other. Some intentionally, unintentionally. And some intentionally, some people be agents, and I talk about agents all the time. Like, whose agent are
Yeah.
you, and what agents are running around in your life, and which agents you can put out, and what agents you can put at an arm's length or a long-handled spoon, like a 6-foot long spoon, or 20-foot, 35-mile spoon length
Mhm.
from you. Who are these agents, and what kind of agent am I in others' lives? And
Right.
I want to be a decent agent. I want to be a good agent.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt others. But I'm not willing to let other people continue to hurt me. I'm tired.
Okay.
Anger thing. My anger too is like when it comes to generational stuff,
Mhm.
and I get mad because they don't get on. Because at one point, anger about that generational stuff, the prayers I'm praying, da 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 da, I don't see no bringing up whatever. But my thing is this: I was like, I had got to a point like when it came to my elders, I gave up on them. I said, all right, I discontinue this. I'm gonna focus on the young
Okay.
because you old folk don't want to change. Y'all don't want to change. You don't want to. Can't see like how you hurt others, how it runs people away from you, and they ain't trying to come back now. They got wrong and they ain't trying to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that anger thing is like with me, it always turned into a form of depression. I had grown up with so many unmet needs that it just wasn't gonna happen. And so I got to a place, by my 50s, by my late 50s, it's like your needs ain't gonna be met unless you do it yourself. It's
Mm.
gotta be between you and God. Ain't nobody coming to help you.
Okay.
You and God.
Okay. Amen.
Yeah.
And again, you've changed your perspective in order to protect yourself rather than being angry and disappointed and dropped, so to speak. Like you say, you've experienced a lot and that has built up and you had some experiences from that anger buildup and the way that it was expressed so that you've kind of taken a step back. But I love how you did share in your mindset, like you said, I view in a more constructive way that I have to take care of my own needs. So you've kind of reduced some of the opportunities of depression as well as some of the opportunities of depression that stem from anger, by having that mindset. And I pray that you open your heart to humanity again, because like you said, you do your work as you're called to do. And that's wonderful because that means you still have a hope that people can and will get what they need, even if you have to give it to them through your calling from God. So that's enough. That's enough. But I like how you took your that anger perspective, and rather than being disappointed and pushed into depression that's caused by anger, I'm going to turn that my view around to a more constructive view and I'm going to take care of my own needs, me and God. So if anything happens where others help, it's an added plus. But other than that, I've realized that I have to take care of my needs. So that's a constructive way of taking a look at it. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Did any of those next
Wait a
destructive
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Mrs. Jackson, I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
I've been through the years and phases of different types of depression
Okay.
and turning inward on self and then beating self up and down the streets and in addiction and da da da.
Right.
But the disappointment in life is still there.
Okay.
Life disappointment is still there. However, I look at it, it's just a fact. It's just what happened and what didn't happen or what didn't go down. And either you can sit here and cry, hoop and holler, or you gonna keep living.
Right.
My work with others, I can tell you, because I learned this long time back.
Hmm.
And this is something a woman, an seasoned woman of God had to say. A seasoned pastor had to say. She said, a lot of women in ministry tend to make up for the broken places of their life with ministry.
Hmm.
So I never mix the two. They're not mixed.
Hmm.
Never. The the doing God's whatever He needs done.
Hmm.
It's not a personal aggrandizement or personal fulfillment on my part.
It's
It's
a call.
fulfilling my end of God's contract.
Right.
It's in the all the glory belongs to Him,
Hmm.
not me. I just happened to be coming by and I wasn't doing nothing. I was on my way somewhere and He said, "Come on, I can call this one over here to do this right now because she's available." And
Right.
it's His glory, but it does not fulfill my personal life, and I recognize that.
Mhm.
And so it just is what it is. It
Okay.
just is what it is.
Like you say, but you've accepted that.
You just not really accept it, but what do you do? What you gonna do? Fall out on
You
the floor? What
accept
you gonna
it
do?
and you
Hang
move on.
yourself? What you
Yeah.
gonna do? Sit down and get
Right.
drunk again? No, we ain't doing none of that.
Yeah. And it's a form of acceptance. Like you said, I'm not going to sit and bellyache over it. I'm not going to, I'm just going to continue to live my life in it and continue to walk out my calling with God. So yeah, I that's like you said, what else can you do? Because there's some things that we can't change, even within ourselves. It happened, but we can change how we respond to it. And that means we're going to be aware that that needs to have a closing rather than continue to affect my life. I'm aware that it has to close. And so I'm going to accept it and move forward. So I thank you. I agree with that. Thank you so much. Let's see. Then I'll read a couple of more. I need to stop blowing up, but I can't. That can be a destructive view that someone has. And a more constructive way of looking at it is I need to listen to my emotional pain. That's what's behind my anger. Just like how Miss Denise was just talking about unmet needs. There's always something behind the anger. Anger, 90% is not the primary emotion. It is something that's behind it, that's pushing it. And when I began to change my view, just focusing on the anger and just explore to see what is it that's pushing it? What is that emotional pain inside of me that I have not given attention to? Remember, we just talked about the split selves. Sometimes there's another split that's split off, that's hurting, that's rejected. We won't give it our attention. We won't give it our time. So therefore, sometimes that anger is brewing. We may not even understand why, but it may be that split that's been split off, something that we haven't addressed, something that we haven't maybe tried to obtain therapy for, maybe something we haven't tried to process out or even speak with someone about to just kind of get some healing to it. That thing still cries out. So lots of times that emotional pain comes from a place in our emotional selves, in our internal world. Or if others threaten me, I have to hurt them. A more constructive view to that would be, in case of serious physical danger, self-defense is appropriate. Other than that, violence is unacceptable. We see a lot of violence in the world today, a lot of uncontrolled anger, people just lashing out, running their cars into people, jumping out, and road rage is a thing. Boy, oh boy. Unless you're protecting yourself, we need to kind of stray away from violence. If we want to live appropriate lives with good behavior, we cannot control other people by putting our hands on them, hollering at them, making them feel less than. We have to understand that it is of our own responsibility to operate in self-control. And then after we get to that place, to kind of look and say, what just happened? Why did that bother me? What inside me made me respond in such a fashion? Anyone identify with any of those destructive views? Go ahead, unmute your phone and share.
Sister Lupe here. I say I've gotten a lot better, but definitely I've been guilty of road rage, popping off at this grocery store, wanting to fight somebody, anybody, I don't care.
No.
Because there is I think it was the last person speaking, there is a release in your anger.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting a hit, or taking a drink.
Yeah.
The anger releases a lot of suppressiveness, and it's like almost like an empowerment. Like you just feel this high when you release that anger. And so yeah, plenty of times I release anger, especially when I'm been very patient, and I just can't take it anymore. It's like no holding back. Like I've held this for a minute now. For now, I'm just trying to be better about my response, or just know that I'm not strong enough to be in that environment right now, or to put up with all that. So I'm walking away, and call me weak if you want, but I can't. I gotta protect me at this point.
That's right. I got to do what's best for me. I love that. Thank you so much, Sister Lupe. Absolutely. Absolutely. Having that, I like how she said, going places that you can't handle, where your anger is concerned. In our recovering of any of these unwanted behaviors, we have to identify people, places, and things. We have to identify what people really bring what people bring that part of that unwanted behavior out in me, the one I feel comfortable and relaxed, and I won't really practice my tools or stand in my recovery with, because whether they trigger me or whether I'm just used to that environment and behaving that way, sometimes we have to realize maybe I don't have to remove them out of my life in total, but I do need to reposition them for my own recovery, because I've made a decision to make my life better. I've made a decision that despite what I've done in my past, I'm going to make my life better today. I'm going to make some intentional, measurable steps of change, and I'm going to stay committed to that process. So certain people, certain places, certain things, certain times a day, like certain holidays, instead of going to turn up at the New Year's party, we maybe try to learn to do something different. Instead of going to the bar where you always get into a fight with your anger, it's time to do something different. It's time to create different behaviors that create healthier lifestyles. So I love that. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Okay, I'll read another destructive view. I should put others' needs ahead of mine. Destructive view. A constructive view, my needs are just as important as anyone else. It's time for me to treat myself well. Treat myself well. I like how Miss Denise talked about, it's been a lot of things that has happened in the past and a lot of things that didn't happen in the past that maybe should have. But you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop the merry-go-round, so to speak, and I'm getting off here and I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to wait for someone else to meet my needs. That's a constructive view. I am going to recognize that my needs are just as important as anyone else's, and I'm not going to wait around for them to be met, because that also can produce anger. That also can produce, just like Miss Denise was saying, depression. And I think Miss Bianca was sharing about when people don't meet my needs, it can make you angry. And at the same time, that anger, on the other hand, on the other situation, is I won't meet my needs. I won't do anything to meet my needs. You guys are doing something today. So I am so proud of each and every one of you. But I need to do something, not just wait for some 12 o'clock midnight magic to occur and change my life. I have to meet my needs, not just externally, the house, the car, the husband, the wife, the kids, the trailer that's being pulled down the street, but I also need to make some steps to meet my needs emotionally, internally. Those things also count. Another destructive view is I should never get angry. I should just never get angry. The more constructive view to that is it is normal to get angry at times. I need to listen to my anger and respond to it safely. The Bible tells us it's okay to anger. God gave us this emotion to let us know when somebody crosses the boundary of our life. But guess what? How we respond to that indicator of anger is all on us. And we have to learn whether we go through therapy to deal with some of those other emotions around our anger, or even take an anger management class. It's a thing now. It's a thing, or it's always have been, but now they even have them virtually, learning how to manage your anger. So we want to heal from that, from the inside out, because lots of times people do, it's just like how Sister Lupe was sharing, you hold it and you hold it and you hold it, and then some lucky customer is going to come along and they going to get it. So we don't want to hold it. We don't want to suppress the anger. We want to process the anger. We want to be able to cope with our anger. We want to be able to deal with our anger. Another one, if I hurt myself, I'll feel better. A more constructive view is I need to find long-term solutions for my pain. A lot of people indulge in cutting. Yes, they do. A lot of people indulge in cutting, even suicide, just to kind of remove that pain. Give me another pain to focus on. I want to remove that pain. We want to take a look at that. You may or may not have ever been there, but anger can make us do a lot of different things. I want to go ahead and open up the floor if anyone have identified with those destructive views. Please share.
Cutting. Now I have never been a cutter. I have slipped my wrist for real. I wasn't playing, but the hand of God made sure I didn't die. I wasn't joking. I've had some very serious, at least 3 very, very, very serious suicide attempts. If it was not for the hand of God, I would not be here right now. But anyway, I had to visit someone who was in a juvenile mental health facility. These were kids in foster care. A lot of these kids were in foster care. What would happen whenever these kids would cry and scream and act out because they don't understand that they're in the custody of the state. All they know is they want their mama, they want their daddy, they want their family, and I don't want to be here in this group home. So they show out.
Yeah.
And they get them to these mental health places and put them on heavy meds to subdue them. and I was visiting a young person, and the nurse there, I know the nurse, one of the nurses years ago back in the 90s, and this nurse told me, she says, a lot of these young people here, they're cutters now. I said, she had to explain what cutting was. She had to tell me. And then, like, I've heard people say that the cutting thing, she said, it's like a cold up in here.
Mm.
Like one kid that's in here is a cutter, and all of a sudden got a bunch of other cutters. Like it's like a spiritual infection, shall I say?
Mhm.
Like it's just passing through like a cold, and everybody's catching it. All
Right.
these kids that are in mental and emotional pain and unresolved trauma are catching that thing of cutting. And this one young lady I think I met one time ago, she told me, she said, when I cut, it's like a release of the pain.
Mhm.
It's a release of how I hurt.
Yeah.
That's how she explained it to me. It's a release of how I
I've heard that definition as well.
hurt. Yes, yes, ma'am. I just wanted to share that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate that. You know, I've heard people say that. I've never been a cutter myself either, but I've heard people say just that. And kids, young adults, they're doing that because they say it's a release of the pain. Others have said it's a distraction of the pain. I just want to feel something else. But can you imagine just someone cutting themselves? Um, just to provide an opening of a release. And that's what we're working on today, providing an opening without the cutting, of course, providing that opening so that we can deal with our emotional pain. Now that you're in a safe place of your life, now that you're in that place where you're a little bit more grounded, you're in that place where you've experienced some maturity, you've experienced some consequences, and you've experienced some benefits, and you've chosen now to live your life in a more beneficial fashion. Now we can deal with providing an opening once you're safe, because sometimes we're not safe enough to deal with the stuff. It'll still connect to our anger. It'll still connect to our rage. It'll still connect to all those other emotions that are affected, that surrounds our anger. So we want to be mindful and make sure we're in safety ourselves before we start exploring that, because we want to explore our emotional state. I would highly suggest that when you get to that point where you want to explore that emotional state, get your therapist. Get you a therapist. If you don't care for the first therapist, fire them and get another one. Because you want someone that you're comfortable with and who you feel is going to help you along that emotional process, that has the wherewithal. Therapists have strategies to help us think, to help us redirect our thinking, the all types of things, interventions, and what ifs that we can take a look at that provoke further thinking. So you're absolutely right. Looking for that release. I'm going to cut myself to obtain a release of pain, not knowing it's an immediate gratification, because what happens after that? What happens after that very moment? In that very moment, now you're dealing with a whole nother issue of pain. So it's we're now looking to deal with that pain in healthier ways. Thank you so much for sharing that, Denise. Anyone else? Anyone else before we go on? Destructive view, I'm a failure. Sometimes that destructive view within itself could provoke anger, disobedience, rebellion, rage, depression. I'm a failure. Sometimes because life didn't deal us out those nice cards that we see our neighbors or people at school or on our jobs, the silver spoons in their mouths and things like that. Some of our past journey to reach where we are today is not a pretty picture, but it don't mean we're a failure. So a more constructive view is deep inside, I know that life is about personal progress, not about winning and losing. So we're making that progress that we need to make today. Go ahead.
Oh my,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
the F word.
Okay.
FAILURE.
Mm.
You know, I was shown something not that long ago, and kind of to do something about that thing. It's definitely a spiritual thing. But you talking about that FAILURE.
Yes.
That is some of the most painful business ever to look at. One of the reasons why normally I'm preoccupied by something else now. And usually when November would roll around, it's a lot that goes on and that went on in November. A friend of mine used to say this to me because she was around me back in the 90s when I was going through my relapse cycle in the 90s. And she said to me, she says, what traumatic event happened to you
Wow.
around your birthday, around November? You always relapse this time.
Wow.
This is your relapse cycle. And I recognize I go through a lot. That shame, that guilt,
Okay.
all the failures, the moral failures, the dope failures, and all the things that the dope cost me or caused, and the moral failures and all those things cost me. That stuff will weigh heavily on me in November. Like I remember early on, I'm gonna be honest with you on this walk, early on the first so many years, usually November, I found myself in bed crying a lot.
Okay.
I couldn't even enjoy my own birthday because I just would be in bed crying.
Hmm.
You don't drink no more, you don't get high no more, you don't fornicate no more. What we got left?
Okay.
um, we just go to church and that's about it. That's what we do. And the one thing I used to be able to do from time to time, God put a stop to that during the pandemic. But anyway, what I'm saying is that failure thing, you didn't do this, you didn't achieve that, you didn't achieve the other, you're barely alive, you know? That is not necessarily pointing at nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a pointing at yourself in the mirror, and then you fall into depression or some form of self-punishment. One of my siblings could tell you something, or the only one who's still alive that grew up in the household with me could tell you when I was a kid, I used to stand in the mirror and ask God why he made me ugly.
Hmm.
You know, why you didn't make me beautiful? Why couldn't you make me beautiful or something? Couldn't have made me something. I used to stand in the mirror and cry because I thought I was so ugly. It was based on how I was treated as a child.
Right.
And then, how I was treated and bullied at school. They messing with me because I'm ugly. Messing with me because I'm slewfoot. They're messing with me because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to say you immediately get over that. That having success in life, I'm not going to say it's a cure, but it can balance out
Right.
the horrors of childhood and middle school years and teenage years. Success, and I ain't seen success yet, and it hurts.
Okay.
It is still yet a dull ache in the soul that I have not seen success. I have not seen successful family. I have not seen success in my employment area. I have not seen success yet. I've not seen success in my intimate relationship. I don't even have any intimate relationship. What are they? Shoot, I don't have none of that. I go to work, I go to school, I come home,
Okay.
and I suffer. My hobby that I love, one of my hobbies that I love, I can't do because I can't afford it. Right? I can't afford the gas. I can't afford it back and forth because it's like where I'm at now. It's like I was looking it up. It's like a 2-hour drive
Okay.
now, and I'm like, wow, like what do we have here? So that failure word, that's a big thing. And a lot of recovering people, especially those that you still got some strength and some vibrancy in your body, and you ain't got a whole bunch of little kids hanging off you. A lot of them will be tempted to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. I know some people hustle like I don't know what, and then, but some of us that in my age group in recovery that have been around since the late 80s and started really sobering up in the late 80s and in the early 90s and stayed sober, that made continuous progression in life, like as far as getting a degree, getting a trade, perfecting their trade, or developing a business. And I haven't done any of that. And that aches my heart, that lack of success, that failure, and not looking in the mirror and not seeing success. That's something that, okay, you can accept, okay, the intimate relationship was crap. Family relationship, crap. It was, but it is crap. But somewhere you got to become successful somewhere, somewhere, and that's an ache right there. I'm telling the truth. I'm sharing that openly, but that's an ache right.
You put yourself on mute. I can't hear you.
But what I was concluding, what I was saying, that that's an ache, a painful ache to have to live with, that you ain't seen yourself produce no kind of success. Yeah, you do guys work and stuff. You do things that God wants. Yeah. But your personal life ain't no success there, and it hurts. That's something that I've had to live with for years.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Because you're absolutely right. That feeling of failure can bring about depression. It can bring about anger. But the way to work out of that is, like you said, to work on change, just like all of us are doing, even currently, working on change. Because as long as we have life, we have hope. And even as believers in Christ Jesus, we know that He's for us to abound, always abounding in the work of the Lord. And personally, I've made some very bad decisions in my past life, and I have turned my life over to Christ, just like you were saying, doing the work. And if that's where my purpose is, if that's where my value is, if that's where my optimum life is, I've accepted that as, hey, maybe this is the life that I was supposed to live. Because when I was living it in the street as a gangbanger or as a person on drugs, that was my personal life, and it got me nowhere. So I found a life, and in all of us, in order to deal with that, and I like how Denise said that F word, in order to deal with that F word, we have to continue to self-discover and continue to find out who are we and work on it. We're never too young, we're never too old, because it's all about where there's life, there's hope. So therefore, I have to identify, where can let me try this. Let me be a little risque and try that. Let me try going skating on Sundays. Let me try going to a meeting here. Let me try communicating with these people. Let me try. Because somewhere I'm going to find in this whole thing called life, something that's going to click, and it's going to be that puzzle piece that's going to say, wow, This is what I enjoy doing. This is my completeness. Of course, there's no solution to the failure. We have to find the solution. No one can just give it to you on a silver platter. Suggestions help. Suggestions definitely help. Again, like I said, finding, even if professional treaters are the only ones that can give us qualifiable suggestions, then let's get some from the professional treaters, because it's all about trying something new. And that's what faith is all about. Investing our efforts in something, believing that that we're demonstrating what we believe, and that something is going to come out of it that's needful. Sometimes it's not joyful, sometimes it's not all in awe, but at the same time, it's going to be beneficial to our process in God. I loved your sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Denise. Anyone else before we go to the next one? Any other destructive views that we've seen or heard so far? I'll read the next couple of others. I can't say what I really think. Sometimes we say, oh, I can't say what I really think, or it's going to be a problem. Well, a more constructive way of looking at it says, it's how I say it that matters. We talk about kids being brutally honest, oh, your hair is ugly. You really want to wear your hair like that? No, so we're not trying to be childishly honest, but we want to phrase things in a way where it's best received. I don't want to build a brick wall against the message that I have for you that I think is going to be beneficial, because if I build that brick wall around it, all you're going to experience is a brick wall and not the message. I say don't shoot the messenger. Well, what happens is sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot at how we say it. So sometimes a lot of our anger won't be provoked to anger if we kind of be mindful of how we present our messages, how we present what we have to say. So another one is, I need to be punished. A destructive mindset. I need to be punished. Sometimes we can't forgive ourselves so much so we won't get past what we've gone through, that we feel we need to be punished. A more constructive thought to that is, that's a PTSD thought. It reflects my inner pain, but it's not true. Remember when we talked about PTSD? Remember we talked about some of the flashbacks that come. Well, not all of flashbacks come in dreams or in visions, but some of it comes from the unhealed pain of our internal world. And so it comes out, causing us to feel like we need to be punished. You did something wrong, or I want to die, which is our next one. I just want to die. More constructive view is, I'm in a lot of distress, but I deserve to live. I deserve to live. I like how when Samuel went to visit David, and David had just lost his child that was created in sin, and he was so distressed, because regardless of how the child is created, that's a child, and that's your flesh and blood. So he was so distressed. He was so distressed that God wouldn't grant him what he had prayed and fasted for. But it came a point where he told him, arise, eat bread and live. Even though this thing happened, arise, eat bread and live. You still have beautiful days ahead of you, months, years, hopefully another decade or two. Arise, eat bread, strengthen yourself and live. Try it again. Try it again. Sometimes our anger just puts us in that railroaded dead end. I just want to die. You deserve to live. Our next one and our last one for today. This will show people how I really feel. I need to put it in words, not in actions. People are blowing up Walmarts and doing all kind of stuff. Oh, I'll show them how I feel. I show them what I do for the cause. Let's put things in words. When we're dealing with anger, we're dealing with situations where your internal world is at a height, and that's different for everyone. Is at a height where rather than showing things in action, we need to find some way to process that thing through. I like how Miss Denise said, wouldn't it be nice if we can take our anger to a nice gym somewhere, take it on a good run, do something constructive. I want to ask, and I'm going to open the floor a final time. Any of these destructive views have you found in your own heart?
If only I could say what I really feel.
Okay.
If only I could say what I really feel. As I shared, I come from a household that it was just like rough and tough, and you better be rough and tough. And so not only with anger, I took on also that I could cut you with my words.
Mm-hmm.
I'll cut you, you'll walk away bleeding because of the words that I would speak.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I must admit, I thought that was kind of cute. For a long time, I would do that. I'll get you one way or another, and I can really get you through what I'm going to say to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, for a long time, that's something that I did. And I had to learn how to not so much of what I say, but how I say it. Because I could say it, I
Yeah.
could say it, but the way I say it,
Yes.
the way I say it. And then also, I've learned in this journey also that I be mindful of what you say to people,
Yes.
because you don't know the frame of mind that that person has.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, this was years ago. I'll never forget, I was out eating, and some of you have heard how I said that, I throw my hair in a ponytail and I would just keep it pushing, and, nice head full of hair, put it in a ponytail, move on. Not wasn't so much girly when it came to hair.
Okay.
And so I remember being out one day with some young ladies. I remember being out, and the hair thing came up around the table. And I was already emotional. Whatever was going on in my life, or whatever it was, crying at a drop of a hat. And I remember this one particular young lady was saying, yeah, we need to have an intervention with you about your hair.
Oh.
And that broke me down so badly.
Wow.
Because I was already going through something.
Yes.
Now, you could say that on a normal day, and I'll laugh with you. Yeah, we probably do need to talk about my hair, because I know how I can have it looking sometimes. But because I was already going through whatever I was going through on that particular day, I didn't receive it.
Okay.
I didn't receive it like that. That was just so hurtful to me. So with that being said, because sometimes I have to take my feet out of my own shoes and put my feet in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
And so from that day forward, I realized, it's not what you say, it's really how you say it. Yeah. How you say it. I don't have to cut you with my words, but I can talk to you where you will understand what I'm talking about. You won't leave out broken, but you will leave out knowing, okay, this here is not good. She don't like this, or whatever the situation may be. So yeah, I was one of those that said, if I could only say what I feel.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your process in identifying that and just kind of learning, I need to say things different. And I thank you for that. Wow. Thank you so much, Bianca. Anyone else before we close out today?
You know, Bianca, they didn't have no business worried about your hair. You have a beautiful head of hair. And there's a lot of haterism in regards to that, okay? There's a lot of
Thank you.
women, you know, it is what it is. Um, you have a beautiful head of hair, beautiful person overall. Um, Sometimes I bit my tongue, chewed on my tongue, had blood in my mouth, and swallowing blood and crying and everything else. Because if I open up my mouth, it was gonna come out like a lion's roar, and it was gonna come out with a butcher knife in my hand or something else. Because I've really had people that have just done too much to me, that anger. But it's like I'm just right now, I'm not in the best place, the most perfect place, but I'm in a better place than I've been in a while. And my thing is, I gotta make a run, like against failure,
Yes.
against failure, because okay, so many other areas of life that fail, and there's some things like I be like, you know, like okay, if some guy approached me, no, like, what we gonna do with each other now? We old. What we gonna do? Look at each other, go to the doctor together? That ain't no to me. That ain't no fun to me. I'm like, no. I don't know, but I want to make a running rush against the walls of failure, tear down the walls of failure,
That's right.
because I want to see some type of success in my life and lay a foundation for some type of success for my generations to come.
Yes.
Bottom line, they had no business messing with you, Miss Bianca, about your hair. Please. sometimes I'm telling you something. Sometimes you got to recognize um healthy self-esteem. Sometimes people come at you in haterism and with little old subtle, slick little haterism, or sometimes blatant, trying to beat you down into a corner because they ain't got what you got.
Mm.
But they have things that you don't have, you know.
Mm.
And everybody has their own personal gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And you just appreciate what you got, appreciate what other people got, appreciate it. Don't ever look at people with a gimlet eye of green eye of any type of envy at all. You don't know what they've gone through.
Yeah.
God put downloaded this gift in this person. He downloaded something else in somebody else. Somebody else is over here as a math genius. Somebody else over here can write essays and write reports and write stuff like never before. That's their gift. Somebody over here can sing a bird up out the tree and make a bird mad at them. Some folk got this, some folk got that, some folk got the other. And the enemy be done downloaded some bad gifts in us through trauma, through trials, through tribulations, through people coming against us, through generational stuff. And here we are in the natural, looking to get at this thing, whatever these things are. I say this about a recovering person, that we better know what makes us tick, what makes us click, who am I attracted to, why am I attracted to this group of people, these type of people, what makes me function, what motivates me, what'll make me malfunction, what'll throw a wrench in my monkey works, and what will totally break me down into dysfunction. The app, not a so-called normal Joe and Jane, they don't know,
Yeah.
because we don't know, but we got to know. And I thank God for Mrs. Jackson today, taking us through soul searching and digging within. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Denise. Thank you, Miss Bianca. You know, you're absolutely right. The world is so full of so many different sorts of people going through their process, and some not so much. But our response, we are in control of ourselves. Our response has to be that one that's suitable for our destiny, who we want to be, you know, who we choose to be. And I love that. And that's why we work on ourselves, because I like how Denise said, we all are agents. What agent or whose agent are you? When an agent comes, whose agent are you? Well, I want to be an agent that's gone through the muck and the mire and has come out as shining gold. I want to be an agent that God can use to help someone else whenever his time permits on my life. I want to be an agent that has processed through some of my own folly and some of through my own jealousies and some of my own innuendos, so that I can be solid with myself and so that I can be solid for others. And and that comes with being aware of where was working inside of me, you know, and not only identifying it, but being aware of it and owning it. Owning it. I love how Denise shared, saying, you know, in the life of a recovering addict, a part of their process is to identify those character defects. Well, I want to challenge everyone to dig deep, whether you've been on drugs or alcohol, or you've been in some other habitual routine behaviors that have sped you through this life, but you haven't even stopped to smell the flowers of your own life. And I see Miss Susu, are you trying to share?
Well, I'm Miss Susu, but this is Grace. I'm trying to share off
Hey,
of
Miss
Miss
Grace,
Susu.
how are you?
Oh, good, good. Well, I'm here, but like that, I'm here,
That's good.
and I just want to say I've been listening to everyone that's talking, and I have a lot of things built up in me, and the pain I go through, and situations in life. And I know you talked about how we deal with it, what we do with it. And I now it's like this the last surgery that I had, it's caused a lot of the side effects. It got I finally found out there's the pinched nerve. They had a total shoulder replacement. But all of that on my left side, the hurting and the pain and the numbness and the affecting my side on the left side, it's because it's a pinched nerve. Now, they did the surgery, but the surgery that they did, it's like I really, it don't help me now, because the replacement of the shoulder replacement, the defect of the device they put in, now I'm having a problem with it. It hurts. I'm doing everything they tell me to do, the pain management, go to physical therapy, do what they tell me to do. But there's a pinched nerve there that's affected another part of my body. But with all this pain going through with my spinal problem, it's like I deal with so much pain every single day. I had to open my eyeballs and say, okay, which way we going today? Which leg I'm going to take out? Which way I'm going to move? Because I have to think about every move that I make because of the pain. So I function in the pain. Like I said, a functional addict. When we have a job we go to, but people don't know that you're an addict because you're functional in it and you go through it. So I'm functioning through this pain. And now with this pinched nerve, it's affecting me, really affecting me a lot. And I can't sleep at night. I try to find a comfortable spot. I can't lay on my side. This is on my left side. I lay on my back. It feel like all of my organs on my left side is trying to smother me. And I try to turn on my right side, then it's like the organs follow smothering on that side. So it's very uncomfortable. But I'm dealing with the pain. I'm going through with the pain, and I don't want to deal with the pain. The pain is there, but I have to deal with this every single day and smile through it. And I learned from you, Miss Jackson, with your smile. You just go through it. Don't nobody know what you go through, but the smile behind everything behind that smile. So I'm learning to deal with, and I want to deal with. I have pain management class that have pain thing. I have to go through pain management for this and that on my spine, and for now this pinched nerve that they did in surgery. So I don't know, they can undo it. I don't know how they're gonna undo it, but it's like every single day is just pain, 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 pain. I gotta smile through it and go through it. And then I look at Paul, and he had this thorn in his side, but he dealt with it because it wouldn't go away. I mean, God said, deal with it. It's sufficient. So I try to deal with all this pain and just try to be strong, but the pain is it gets unbearable sometimes. I just smile through it. People look at me like, you don't know what I'm going through on the inside. My body is screaming with pain, 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 pain every single day. But I have to hold on to God's promises and His word, and look at the other people in order to get through what I'm going through. But now I just found out all the suffering when I went to the ER the other day, and found out, it's a pinched nerve that did happen in surgery. So I don't know how they're going to correct that or what they're going to do for that, but that's a new thing I had to suffer with right now. So, it's a lot. It's a mental thing. It's physical and it's mental. When the physical and the mental come together, it's kind of hard because you got to kind of try to deal with it, separate it in order to get through life. The people don't understand what you're going through. And sometimes your body's screaming.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to share that. But like I say, I'm dealing with it. I know time is of essence. I just want to get my say out there. And that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Well, thank you so much. So good to hear you, Miss Grace. We hadn't heard from you in a while. And you're absolutely right. Everybody carries their own burden. Everybody carries their pain. Everybody carries their own life challenges. And it does provoke us to anger. Like you said, yours was imposed from a surgery that was supposed to help, and it harmed. And there's a word for that I can't think of right now. When a professional performs and they harm you instead of help you, or harm you in the midst of helping you, and
malpractice. It's the word you're looking for, malpractice. I don't know.
no, it's not.
Okay.
No, because it's not so much a malpractice. It's something that happens in the midst of, just like even talking to someone here on this forum, my initiation, my mindset, my purpose is to help somebody. But even just in sharing all this, I may harm you. I may harm you, and it may take you down a rabbit hole of no return. So again, sometimes we go to help, but in the midst of things, because of various variables, you do end up harming, and that can make you very angry. That can make you very angry that you come out with a greater problem, or with the problem that you didn't have when you went in. And that can make us angry. And this is why we have to utilize what's around us to deal with our anger, not just deal with it, not just cope with it, but heal from our anger, to heal from it, because those things that anger will continue to be very present in other parts of our lives when we don't heal from it. So, therapy about it, because I can imagine, like you said, before you wake up, you got to navigate how you're going to get out the bed in the morning with less pain. So, it's like you've changed my life because of this. And now, how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to pack that in a package and set it on the lake of forgetfulness so that I can move forward? Because we add to our pain by adding the added stress of anger, the added energy of anger. We add to our pain. Not to mention, sometimes it pushes us into some directions when we don't deal with and resolve some of those issues. It pushes us into a branch of life that maybe we weren't planning on going. Sometimes it pushes us because of that unresolved anger. Again, take you to a place you didn't want to go and keep you longer than you wanted to be kept. So we want to deal with that, because we cannot make everything go our way. We cannot get the best outcome of everything in life, how everyone handles us, what they say about us, how this ends up in school. but we have to learn how to cope with life on life terms. And I thank God that I'm on the line with believers today, believers in Christ Jesus, because guess what? He is the way that we're going to get through this. He is our hope. Sometimes we try different methods, and it all after everything, like that prodigal son, we go back to the Father. So I hope that through our anger and through our impulses and whatever it is that drive our anger, let's let it lead us to the Father for healing of our internal world, of our emotional selves. Let it drive you to the Father so that he can touch those unmet needs, so he can deal with those unresolved areas, and so that he can bring us into a place of wholeness, that we can step it out, because some things aren't whole overnight. Lots of things aren't, but he'll put us in that place of faith where we can walk through it. And in time all heals all wounds. So we thank God, and we thank each and every one of you for doing something for you to benefit you, so that you'll walk out of your anger, as we're talking about on today. So tomorrow we're going to address the MCL, the more caring life. We're going to talk about some things that we need to look at before anger producing episodes occur, during that anger producing episode, as well as after. So MCL, that's your acronym, and I'll give you a little. I'm gonna give you a little clue. Motivate, contain, listen. Motivate, contain, listen. Till tomorrow, you guys live free. I love you. God bless you all.
God bless you, Apostle.
Thank you so much.